Welcome now to this show. This evening we thank you for joining us, and we have seen that it's almost a month since the Ministry of Education and Sports officially allowed schools to reopen, allowing children to fully resume formal education after an unprecedented period of closure due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, even as the schools across the country reopen, they do face several challenges. These include dilapidated school infrastructure affected by extreme weather conditions and the lack of maintenance, hesitation by the parents and children to go back to school, not forgetting the violence against children. Now, this is particularly true for the child mothers, who not only face social stigma among their peers and the lack of support systems necessary for them to ably go back to school, but also often the lack of support of community leaders. So this evening we want to discuss the challenges being faced and, most importantly, the solutions moving ahead. So be part of this conversation by using the hashtag #BackToSchoolUG, and it takes a world. We are joined by a very important gentleman, and it's been a very excited to listen to your thoughts, and for you who's just joining us and you've probably taken your child to school, we want to hear from you. And has been for you for the last 3 or so weeks. So we are joined by Mutekanga George, who's the Commissioner of Private Schools, Ministry of Education and Sports. A very good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. We are honored to have your presence with us here today.
Yeah, you are welcome. I'm really delighted also to be here.
And we also have Mr. John Terraho, who is the Education Advisor, World Vision. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for having me here, and I'm very happy to be here.
And I want to stay with you. I want our conversation to start with you. For the last 3 weeks or so, what has been your main observation of the reopening of schools?
Thank you so much, Sandra. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Minister of Education and Sports.
Thank you.
For taking that bold step of having children back to school.
True.
It was an action, it was something that we really awaited for, and I'm really sure that everybody, parents, children, teachers, we're very excited. So congratulations, the Ministry of Education, congratulations parents, congratulations teachers, congratulations children that have gone back to school. We have been battered. 2020 and 2021 were not necessarily good years. We were battered. Our hope was somehow really, shattered somehow. But I like the resolve, that we picked in 2022 as we actually started there. I actually see a lot of hope. I see a lot of resolve. I see everybody saying it is here, but we shall deal with it. The challenges are here, but we are also here to deal with these challenges. The fact that, children went to school, teachers were excited, and parents, yes, it was January and they struggled their children back to school. So it is a feeling of satisfaction that children are back to school.
Yes.
The challenges are there in an environment that has no challenges. I really know there are so many. Schools have issues of infrastructure decay. Schools have, some of the classrooms, in some schools, classrooms collapsed. In some schools, you have no furniture. Cases, children were also involved in a lot of other things. So it is work. There is a lot of work for all of us. There's a lot of work for parents, a lot of work for all the duty bearers, and of course coordinated by the minister. Exciting that we can have the children, and I would like to appeal to everybody that cares to listen. You're watching me right now, that we should do everything possible to make sure that no child remains behind.
Indeed.
To make sure that every because not getting a child back to school is costly. The cost of not than the cost of struggling to have these children in school. So as education, the coordination efforts of the Ministry of Education, and that now we have, the campaign that we have taken up is one, mobilize, all resources, mobilize, all efforts to is of having every child at school, because if children can't go to school, they become more.
And it is a cost to the general
country. And it is a cost. Actually. It's not a cost only to the child. It is a cost to this nation. And having many children not going to school, will cost us a generation. And we are not a country that is willing to lose a generation. Schools is really something that is trying to save a generation for this country. And as we build generations, we build for the future. We are securing ourselves. Then we shall be grandfathers. Shall be grandfathers of children who can do something for themselves. We shall be who can make decisions. We shall be grandfathers for children, who will take over when we are gone.
True, very, very well said, Mr. John Terraho. I love the passion in your voice, and the fact that you want children to really get back to school for us really shows us that there are people that really care about seeing our young ones get back into the system. I want to move on now to you, Mr. Mtekanga George, yes. And I want you to paint for us a picture on the aspect of the private schools as that. We did see government schools struggling here and there, but on the side of the private schools, how has it been like for you for the last 3 or so weeks?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Sandra. I want to thank again for this opportunity that you have given us as the Minister of Education to talk about the current state of education in the country, and more so now we are picking on my area, the private schools and institutions. Of course, it has not been easy for 2 years. Most of our private schools, when they closed. Remember when the decision was taken by His Excellency the President on 20th, was it 18th March, and we closed on 20th. So for almost 2 years, most of my private schools were mostly hit, and that hit caused a lot of trauma to the whole country. Some of our private schools have actually closed, some have been sold. Is that bad?
It is.
Some of our teachers have crossed to other neighboring countries, others have gone for greener pasture. So these are
others have started different businesses.
Others have started different businesses. Yeah. So actually that's the biggest concern now we have. But the few that we have visited have started. The biggest challenge has been the teachers. Some schools the teachers are not enough, and some of the teachers that are present need to be retooled for capacity building. We have a new curriculum, the abridged curriculum, which is trying to condense the work for 2 years into 1 year. That one we need to take them through, and obviously that is a big challenge. The other issue, of course, has been the payment. Teachers who have not been earning for almost 2 years, tell him or her to come back to school and teach and concentrate. He or she has a family, he or she has a home, he or she has a house to rent, he or she has to provide food for the children. So those are the challenges that we are trying to mitigate. And good enough, we have the 2 associations, both the proprietors of private schools, proprietors of private education, proprietors of education institutions in Uganda, PIAU. We also have the national education institutions, which was also the first private for head teachers. So we are trying to go through those associations to ensure that we bring them together, we work together, and we agree on a strategy. But for now, so far so good. The other challenge has been the cost. The cost of education had to rise. The school fees increment, you remember. The other issue has been the loans. My private sector has been hit. Most of our private schools that had loans. Actually, I have one case in my office where somebody took a loan of 350 million, and it has almost doubled. Actually, it is 950, tripled. So you take a loan of 350, but after 2 years it is now 950, and yet you have not been working. So we are trying to agree with the Bank of Uganda and the Uganda Bankers Association on a strategy on how do we help these people out. But good enough, we've managed to open. Now that we have opened, at least there's some small income. The only challenge you have with that, the bankers are also, as it drops on the account, is cut it off. As drops off, so those are some of the few challenges that we are facing as private schools. I think the other challenge has been of course, I've talked about the basics, the teacher. Now it might be the books, because now we have the lower secondary curriculum, and we are giving out materials, books, as government, and we are catering for the two. But of course, you begin with the first child, the public school. So the private schools are getting, but not yet as expected. So I think that's why we have a few challenges.
I want to stay with you because we also did see reports earlier that parents were shifting their children from the private schools to government schools.
Yes.
So from where you sit, does this concern you, and how are you trying to navigate that? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to lose all your children or moving away, but also we've seen private schools closing down. You know, the owners deciding, we are turning. I saw a report where the owner of a private school decided to close it down and then get into a poultry farm.
Someone put in some houses for rent.
Yeah, so these are very big concerns. How are you navigating that?
That's how we are. Okay, thank you very much, Sandra. After these have been our concerns, I have 200 schools on the list for selling, and some of these schools we have managed to manage. They're not being sold now, but at least we're trying to say how do we support them. We talked to government and we're trying to come out with a strategy whereby we had a meeting with members of parliament on how do we help these private schools from these problems. So we had the meetings, and I don't want to talk about what are the outcomes, but at least we have a strategy. We have had a meeting with the members of parliament for the Education and Sports Committee, and we came up with a strategy which has not yet matured. We're also planning to meet His Excellency the President through the First Lady, who is our Minister for Education and Sports, and we believe that that strategy can also work, because that strategy was meant to work with the banks to ensure that the loans that are not there's that increment that has been the principal should remain that you borrowed, but the interest is where we need to discuss. How do we discuss the interest that has accrued from lockdown up to the opening? Because those 18 months for the banks, they keep on calculating their interest. That's why we have had the biggest problem. But if we can agree on paying back the principal, if somebody borrowed 400 million to put up an infrastructure, how can we help him or her to ensure that he pays back the principal and maybe a small interest?
Now, staying with the aspect of people shifting from private schools to government schools, I want to pass this question to Mr. Terao John. When you look at the entire aspect of, I did interact with some parents who actually decided to take their children from private schools to government, and they're facing a number of challenges. As an education advisor, the World Vision, do you think the shifting, it's been 2 years, and a child comes back in the system, they were used to the private setup, and they get back to the private system, does it affect a child's education?
Well, thank you so much, Sandra. I think what we should be discussing here right now is whether a child has an opportunity to go to school. And for me, I would be very concerned if a child was not in school at all. So COVID, I said, battered us. It hit us and affected our economy. So and you see, the private education providers were really supplementing government effort. It is not that the children cannot even be accommodated in public schools.
Yeah.
So what we need to be doing is actually to improve the quality of public education. Because in Uganda, as I speak, we actually have qualified teachers in schools. We no longer have senior one completers, senior one teachers, all the teachers in our primary schools in Uganda are qualified teachers. So they just need supervision. We need to improve on the management of schools. We need to improve on the functionality of school management. We need to mobilize parents, and we need to increase on the community support for, reading activities. A parent who has had their child in a private school knows exactly why the child has been doing well. It's because the parent has been spending some money. So if I have been spending 1.5 million shillings in an upscale private school, and now I'm not able to spend that money because I lost a job, exactly what happens in a private school. So why wouldn't I make sure that I follow up what is happening, with my children? Because what the public schools are actually lacking right now, able parents have withdrawn their voice, and they have gone to the private schools. So the parents that are not able, you do not have a voice. So it becomes very, in the public schools. So what we need to be doing right now is actually building a voice, a citizen voice and action at the level of every school. Engage the parents, the school management committee, the PTA, the teachers, to identify the problems facing their children, isolate those problems, propose some solutions, and allocate people to follow up those solutions, have a monitoring and support kind of system, to ensure that actually whoever is supposed to be doing what they are supposed to be doing are doing it. I was looking at a forum, one of the fora I belong to, and the people are talking about public schools collapsing. Why should public schools collapse? We have boards of government, we have qualified teachers, we have head teachers. Teachers do not teach. Why are they not taken on when they do not teach? For a whole week, and they are not teaching any lesson, and the district has nothing to do about that. The school management committee or the board of governors have nothing to do about that. Actually, Mr. Mtekanga, some of teachers in the public schools leave. They use the government time and they go to private schools to teach.
Sure.
The majority of the science teachers that are teaching those science subjects in the private schools are actually on government payroll. And from the private schools, they don't earn as much as they earn from government, but they spend more time. And so we really need to get up and
we have a solution for that,
and determine and find a solution for that. We cannot continue looking on.
We have already got a solution. I could maybe give some guidance.
Please, come on.
Thank you very much, my brother, for that concern. Actually, it was a concern last year.
Yes.
This year we agreed. We had a meeting with all the chief administrative officers in Kololo, with the First Lady, with the Prime Minister, and it was raised as a serious issue. We had issues of teachers in government public schools not teaching. We have issues of teachers in public schools not only teaching but also they are supposed to be on payroll but they don't appear. Maybe someone even reaches an extent of getting someone to teach for him, provided he or she pays for him. So those issues have been addressed, and we have agreed on a validation exercise, which has already started. Yeah, and we are happy that almost, I think you saw the headlines.
Yes.
Almost, is it 10,000 teachers? 1,000 teachers already have been seen. So what we are doing, I think, is very good. We have already told, first of all, when we carried out this campaign of paying the teachers, you remember we have been carrying out the teachers. What we observed is what we were saying. Some of our teachers were both in both public and private schools. And earlier on I told you that we have had challenges of having now private teachers in the private schools, specifically for private schools. So the concern, one, we are now validating. Two, we have regular meetings. Three, we supervise the teachers on a weekly basis. And every month the teachers meet with a cow, because at first we used to they thought they were not decentralized, the secondary schools. Now they report to the cow. So because it is the cow who pays them, it is the cow who puts them on payroll, it is the cow. So he supervises them first. So our work now is to monitor. Our hands are off, but the eyes are on. We only do some basics. We only recruit and then refer. So that improvement has caused some change. So I wanted to tell my brother to come this year.
You're going to see some improvements.
It's a great improvement already. I know of teachers who have already lost their jobs. I cannot mention here. I know of teachers who used to be on payroll, who are not on payroll because of one or two other reasons. I know of teachers who joined the payroll illegally, who are also now off the payroll. So meaning that actually, as I talk now, every teacher who wants to join payroll is very eager because of the gap. And as we talk now, the interviews are almost beginning. Shortlists have been done. We're not going to do further interviews, I think, before the end of this month. There could be some gaps which are filled.
Now, I want us to deal with the elephant in the room directly, but I want to remind those that are watching us today that our theme is no child is left behind in returning to school. So be part of this conversation by using hashtag back to school UG, and also it takes a world. I would like to hear your comments and ideas on how we can move ahead and ensure that every single child returns to school. And back to our guests today, I want us to really analyze the problems that we have seen in the last couple of weeks, the ones that are hindering, because it's a month, almost a month, but there are parents and children that are not even thinking of returning to school. How do we then entice them back, vis-a-vis thinking about parents that are very skeptical of taking their children to school because of COVID-19 and the respect of SOPs? I want to stay with you. How do we navigate the challenges that we have so far seen?
Yeah, for example, last week on Wednesday, on Thursday, we were able to visit one of the schools in Masoli, Tawakiso. Personally, I was the team leader. I represented my permanent secretary. The two challenges I saw that were outward were, of course, the influx of numbers. The school that we visited had 320 children before lockdown. Now it had almost reached 400. So there was a challenge of space, there was challenges of furniture, there were challenges of uniforms, because you could see children not in uniform, and you could see that these children have just come join the school. I know that you're getting my concern.
Yes.
So I cautioned the LOC3 that the parents should be supported, should be guided to ensure that children have uniforms, because the uniform identifies a child from one school to another. 2, it is able to know that this child is in school or not in school.
True.
Because I also gave instruction that since we are leaving no child behind, anybody who sees a child lingering around, not in school, he or she should be arrested, taken to police with a parent and asked, why is he not in school? That's the campaign we are starting, and with which we started. So my message is that, one, the biggest challenge was that, of course, having spent 2 years, our children have grown. Some have put on weight. Ladies have, the girls have, the sizes. So the uniform is an aspect, and the 3 years, of course, it has gone off. So we need to make sure that the parents, because that's the role of the parent, to provide the uniform, to provide a midday meal, because an empty bag cannot stand. I told the parents where I was that children should eat at school. The primary 1, 2 should have at least a cup of porridge. P3, P4, P5, P6, P7 should eat at least a hot midday meal. This is it's not even a we shouldn't make it. We must encourage parents to realize the importance of providing a midday meal, because for teachers, for them, I know the schools will organize, but our parents should be helped to realize that it is their role to provide the midday meal,
so
to
they
feed
encourage their children to go to school.
Our president normally used to call it Entanda, but being in urban settings and urban areas, we encourage them to contribute something small to ensure the schools organize and cook food for the children. Because even if you teach very well, like my brother wants us to teach, we had an empty stomach, there's no learning. And that's the reason why some parents had preferred private schools, because in private schools, for us, we eat, we provide everything. That's why some cost is high.
Let us now move on back to Mr. John Teraho. When you hear about taking back, leaving no child behind, the last weeks we have seen talk of teenage mothers, you know, some religious leaders actually saying they shouldn't be going back to school. They should first stay at home. They are going to encourage their fellow young people that it's okay to be pregnant and get back to school. What are your thoughts on that, and how would we navigate the teenage mother story to see that even when they've gone through that, they can still attain education? How do we encourage them back to school? Thinking about the stigma that it is at the back of the mind that they could actually face it back to school.
Thank you, Sandra. You know, that is an elephant in the house. But before I, before I say something about that, I just wanted to comment on the key challenges. What actually we see down there. Children have come to school after 2 years, so there was loss of learning time. Some of the children have even overgrown the classes, and there is a lot of need for psychosocial support.
Yes.
I appreciate the fact that government has already had an abridged curriculum, but we need to do a lot in training teachers. You know, we gave this curriculum to the districts. We gave it to the authorities in local governments, and they are supposed to have this curriculum printed, and then they are supposed to train teachers, and teachers are supposed to go down and support children. I think we did it very hurriedly, and we need to do it a little bit better. My education team in the field have been to a number of districts where, and to schools where there is no single copy of a printed abridged curriculum. And the teachers are supposed to go to class, and they are supposed to teach, they are supposed to refer to that curriculum, but they don't have it. It's urgent, it's a priority area, and it cannot be an unfunded priority. Mr. Mtekanga, my brother here, needs to take it up. That must be a funded priority. Secondly, we have children, like when you go to some schools, you actually find very many children in lower classes. Yes. P1 especially. Because in P1, 2 years ago, there were children who were due for P1. There were those who were in P1 already. There were 6, they were in P1. They didn't continue, they didn't complete. There are those who were 5. So they have also come. There are those who were 4, there are also 6. So in some places you have got huge numbers. I was actually getting some data from a few schools. I have a school in Bundubujo called Mantorova Primary School, where there are 292 children in primary 1. 292 children in primary 1
with one teacher.
Yes. So those children need 6. They actually need 6 classrooms. Ordinarily, normally, in a normal education setting, they need 6 classrooms. But the children are in 2 classrooms. So even if you had desks, you don't even have space for the desks. The teacher does not have, and they have only 2 children. Another one I just picked from a few places. Another one is the Bull Primary School in Asamuk. They have 204 children in P1. 204, and they have 1 teacher. So they are outside. They cannot be. Then in the Burondo Primary School, they are 200. But they have been taken to the church. There is an opportunity, so they are in the church. So what are we talking about? That children have actually come. Children have actually come. But the teachers are struggling. So we need to find a way of supporting these teachers, and the education partners, include World Vision and many others, are actually out there with the Ministry of Education, with the district education officers, and the center coordinating tutors, trying to support this. We started by mobilizing community. Let the children come. and the children came. But Sandra, the pregnant girls, the teenage girls who are pregnant have not actually come. There are very few. If I can take an example, in northern Uganda we work in 206 schools. And all our staff, every to be particular and follow up these girls and see if any child, actually any pregnant teenage came to school and she was pregnant or she had a baby, we wanted to make, to focus, to make sure that we support that kind of child, make sure that, because our focus is on the most vulnerable. Remember, Sandra, this is a child. The child is already vulnerable, and they are going to produce another vulnerable child. So these are two. So it's good that the Minister of Education has actually come up with guidelines for management of children who have gone through this experience. Very good. So my personal view on this is that every child needs a chance. It will be very unfortunate if any one of us decides to criminalize a child because she got pregnant. The increased number of teenage pregnancies in this country is actually an indictment on the adults of this country. It shows that we have failed somewhere. It is an indictment of our country. It is an indictment on the leaders. See, we are talking about these children. They were abused. They were violated. And the most important thing we should be looking at right now to overcome that trauma, we should actually be supporting them to catch up, to rebuild their lives. We should not be condemning them. We should not. Because when we condemn them, we push them into isolation, and when they are isolated, we lose them. And if it was my daughter, I would support her to go through that experience. She would deliver the baby. I would support that baby. And at the end, I would find a school for my daughter. I would give her a second chance. Every child needs a second chance. And I would like to encourage every parent whose child has gone through that experience to tighten their belt and support their children.
Well, just to get some clarity, yes, you would say that the pregnant teenagers should be allowed in school.
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what I am actually saying. So kind of construction in our society is very, very, very quick to condemn.
Sure.
It's very quick to criminalize somebody who has had a problem like that. But if we focused on condemning each one of us for the sins we commit, then we would all not be here. We would all be gone. But we are actually saying these children need to be given an opportunity to go back to school. Now, this of course is a choice that is going to be made not by the teacher who is at school. So Mutekanga and ourselves and many other people are going to persuade this teacher, are going to talk to this teacher. And the reason why we are here is actually to talk to those who are the viewers, that friends, these are our children.
Let's embrace them.
These are our children. We cannot throw them. We cannot say, let's condemn them. We must work out a way of supporting these children, a way of having these children have a future. Because if they don't have a future, we shall not have a future as a country. Let me tell you, Sandra, that the number of school-going teenage girls that got pregnant during COVID increased by 67%. School children pregnancies increased by 67%. That statistic is from UNICEF. So if we were having 10 before COVID, 10 children, school-going children getting pregnant before COVID, we now have 77. And that is an elephant in the room. So what do we do with those children?
We embrace them.
Okay.
I want us to throw that question to Mr. Mtekanga George. What are your thoughts on teenage mothers?
Actually, I want to give my personal experience. 1 month I was in Kalangala.
Yes.
1 month ago, and I had to go on again to see the same challenge. We just visited 3 sub-counties, and these 3 sub-counties we had over 30 girls who are already pregnant and who have even delivered. Now, the challenge that we saw, the first one was, because the Ministry of Education and Sports insists that the child mother can only go up to school after 6 months of breastfeeding. That's what the guidelines talk about. 2, the parents or the guardians must be willing to keep the child.
Yes.
So that the child carries on with education.
Exactly. Now that's where our concern is. Because the parents, as he said, we are the parents. We own these children. We cannot kill these children. But now that we have had children, is it a crime? It's not a crime because they are children. So we need to support them through that stigma. Number 2, personally, I had to use this as a farm school. We have a farm school, the only government institution in Sese Islands, which is a tertiary institution. So I talked to the principal, Mr. Innocent. I convinced him. I said, please, these are children from the area. Well, Sese Farm Institute attracts children from all over the region and sub-region. Can't we provide some specialized informal courses for these girls, which he accepted? Now that's why I want my brother to take on. Now these girls have been convinced to go back to school, but they are not going back to class like other girls
because they're scared.
Because they are scared.
They are scared.
2, they are carrying someone. At first he was 1, now they are 2. So we are coming up with a strategy on how best we can make sure that all our tertiary institutions throughout the country can absorb these girls in an informal way. So we are having informal courses tailored depending on somebody's need. When I asked all the girls, the 30 girls, at least 10 were interested in hairdressing, 10 were interested in baking and cookery, 10 were interested in, very few were interested in agriculture. Yet everybody must eat.
Sure.
Because actually my concern was convincing them, because in that Sese Farm School we have over 30 courses, right from dairy, poultry, piggery, apiary, you mentioned it, live around the crops, all they are all within the same institute. So my concern now in this case is that how do we convince these girls, because the lower secondary curriculum is putting agriculture as number 1, and we're now saying agriculture has 8 components. How can we help these girls to keep, at least pick one of the 8 components? You either specialize in poultry within the training, you specialize in dairy if you have the opportunity, you specialize in crop, fishery, fishing, because Kalangala is near the walk, and even have the fishing ponds up here, depending on the area where you are coming from, because you know honey is now a commercial. We have even floriculture, horticulture, we have all these, the vegetables that we buy in Kampala, the tomatoes. So the issue now is mindset change.
Sure.
We need to change the mindset of our girls. First of all, the parents, the girls,
and also the teachers.
And don't forget that they have the children. And these children also need to be cared for. So what we did in Kalangala, I want to thank Acts Fund. There's a lady called Diana Kivuka who managed to come, and so she came from the US and she was coming in support. So my brother, World Vision, Save the Children, UNICEF, we need to come up with a strategy. For me personally, I may not think that a child could go back to the same class where he or she was, but can we provide for her alternative sources of lessons and that can sustain her, both her child and herself for the future? Because we even started a circle with among the 30 girls. So we are using that model to see. We are trying it in Namutumba next week. We are going to Kapchorwa. We were in Lila. We went to Gulu. We are trying it to Kabale. So we are trying to see what's the best strategy. And I think, God willing, we shall have a way forward. But now that my brother is here and we shall leave no child behind,
yes,
I think that is now another area.
We'll throw back that question to him on the strategies
on supporting, because as a ministry we don't have enough support.
Yes.
But the moment I have him as a partner and other partners on board, I know we can have that strategy. I want him to think about that line of having this tailor-made courses that are more informal but can be assessed by DIT. Because we have DIT, Directorate of Industrial Training, that awards certificates to people who have had informal classes. So I want to link it with my brother Biakatonda, who is the director at DIT. I want to think about how do we conceptualize this concept for only the girls who are pregnant, who have been able to deliver, and who must continue with education. But my issue is getting a survival skill. Now it is this skill that will not only keep her to have a small earning, but we are also interested in the child that he or she has delivered, because he or she must stay alive and become somebody of very importance.
Also go to school.
Also go to school.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll pass over this conversation.
This is it's a big conversation. It's really very important. I think the point is that if a girl has the courage, she has been counseled and she feels she can manage, she can handle. You know, the schools are being asked, please do not exclude her on the basis of pregnancy, do not exclude her on the basis of having a child or being a mother. But of course now we must also go back and start looking at our behaviors. So we need a whole strategy on behavior change, communication, on how we can support our parents. You know, even the parents are traumatized. You know, it is not a good experience for a parent to have their child getting pregnant at 13. It's not a good experience. So they also need a lot of support. The parents need a lot of support. So once the parent is convinced, is supported, and is able to support their child, and their child thinks that they can give it a second chance, a second shot, that's good. The head teachers are being told by the ministry, please do not exclude such a child when they come back to school. But also, as we develop these guidelines, as we try to talk about all this, we have to be mindful of the fact that our school system, our social system, you know, it traumatizes these children. Sure. So it traumatizes. You know what the girls have been going through in the past because of menstruation. It becomes a huge issue, and a girl runs out of school because she's being tormented, she's being traumatized, she's being bullied, things like that. But this is it's work in progress. We cannot jump all of a sudden and we know that now the mothers can go to school. No, I don't also think it is right for somebody to go to class with a baby. No, the babies should stay at home.
Exactly.
Strongly, I do not think that anyone would be right to say that somebody can carry their baby and go to class. No. The baby should be taken care of by somebody at home. Well, I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but I would explain myself. It would not be in order for a person to carry a baby. And pregnant people also have a lot of needs. It's not about going to school, really. We do not want to risk their lives. We don't and die and bleed and before somebody who cannot even support. We are talking about schools that do not even have female teachers. Mr. Mtekanga, in one of the projects where we have 12 schools in Achaba, it's a sub-county in Yam. There are 137 male teachers and 22 female teachers to 137.
The ratio is almost 1 to.
So you can actually imagine that that is a problem. So in the schools where we work, I told you that we work in 206 schools. The number of female teachers is actually about a third. So when we start sending mothers, babies to schools that do not have other mothers, we are risking our children. This is something we need to, plan very well, think about seriously. But let me get to something more important than that. We have children that have gone through these experiences. So, when a commissioner, we need to start thinking seriously about prevention.
Okay.
How do we make sure that those who have not been pregnated, those who have not conceived, those who have not been abused, those who have not been violated, are not violated? People are talking about taking these children to school, supporting them to study, and I'm also advocating that no one should exclude a child who is courageous enough to go to school after that experience. No one. Everybody needs a second chance. Even God gives us a lot of chances, and I believe that we have many important ladies in this country who were at one time teenage mothers, and they're important.
Exactly.
They're important.
Actually, we still have several.
So we need to look at children as individuals.
So in that line, Madam Sandra.
Yes, I just wanted to finish. I wanted to finish that the starting point for doing that is actually to find a way of dealing with perpetrators. Come on, we are talking about children, pregnant, teenage.
But we're not talking about those that get them
where
pregnant.
are those guys that were responsible? Where are they? We are talking about hundreds of thousands of girls that teenage that have become.
Actually, we have 6,000 mothers.
So where are those people responsible for the pregnancy of children? Even if they are children themselves, I know they are criminally liable when they are 12 years and above. Where are they? How many do we have in Kampiringisa for doing that? How many adults do we actually have in courts of law? How many have been produced? So how are we going to protect even these young ones who are not yet pregnant? So as a ministry, as a government, as people of this country, we need to get up in arms and protect the girls that are not pregnant. Otherwise, those guys who did it to the other, to these ones we are talking about, they are going to do it to the others. If they are teachers who did it, where are they? If they are parents who did it, because I understand some of these children have even been violated by their own parents. Who are they and where are they?
Actually, that's a very good topic.
Why are we talking about this? How can we present teenage pregnancy when we are not when we are not accounting for the actions of those who are responsible for pregnancy of children?
If I'm to share what we did in Kalangala, I had to invite the RDC, the DSO, the DO, the DHO, and the District Community Development Officer for a meeting. Because I told them, this is the trend, but they told us there are more girls. So I wanted to emulate what the RDC said. So from what we showed the RDC, because for us we are looking at what we are trying to do as education. But I want to thank him. I know he's watching. So let us use that model, because for him it took trouble to find out from the girls, to know who are the perpetrators, and then take action. Actually, we had to even involve police, but the issue now is that they had to run away. But run away up to where? I'm sure some of them are within. They are in hiding.
Now someone may say, okay, if you're talking about leaving no child behind, if this perpetrator is actually a child as well, who is supposed to be going to school, how do you deal with the two? Incidentally,
among the 30 cases that we went through, there was no child father. Apart from two border guys. And there's one border who impregnated two. So you can imagine two girls being affected by one person. And that was a very serious case. And that person is on the run. So you already have two challenges within the one area. So to me, I just wanted to say, one, how do we prevent? First of all, we have the psychosocial program, both for the teachers. We begin with the teachers, the children themselves. The head mistress of Nambingo, my daughter goes there, so I had to go with one of these people to talk to the girls. To me, that is one way to go. We need to talk to the girls before. You tell them the pros and cons of messing up and also dealing with men, and so that they know they are only cautious. But of course, those are able-bodied children and able schools. Now the issue now is in the rural schools. How do we do it? So through our structure, through our own system, through the DOs, through the district inspectors of schools, through the CCTs, through the senior managers, senior women teachers, senior women teachers, senior male teachers, then through the school management committees, even the PTAs. So we need to come up with a campaign, and I want John now to realize the importance of our collaboration, because at the end of the day, that's another question for the day. How do we prevent another? Because I was talking to my colleague, Madame Rosette Nanyas, who is the gender technical advisor. It would be 6,000 cases have been reported in Busoga, in the east only. 6,000.
That's a small number.
I'm just talking of 4 districts.
Yeah, maybe.
Buyende, Ruuka, Namayingo, Bujiri.
And they have delivered
6,000 cases. Now I said, what is this? So, and those are the highest. So, actually, as I talk next week, we are going to the east to see the way forward. But now that we have even made it a part of the talk show, now the issue now which you have clicked me is how do we prevent others from getting pregnant?
Yes.
I think that's the question of the day. And I must answer it with him after this. So
now, you know, we can speak about this the entire day, but because of time, I want us to, I want to hear your thoughts when you hear "leave no child behind."
Yes.
Moving ahead, what does that? How does leaving no child behind sound like to you?
The first one, the message is that one, we should now mobilize our parents and all stakeholders. I don't know that you're aware that we have 15 stakeholders in education.
Yeah, we do.
15. Beginning with you, the media. I'm sure everybody who is watching this program, he or she is a parent or is a guardian. So we have the parents, we have the teachers, we have the head teachers, management committees, the LC system, LC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have our structure, the technical people, the DOs, the DIs. We have the politicians, the MPs, the ministers, the area members of parliament. Because at the end of the day, this is a joint. We have educational partners like him. So how do we work together to ensure that all children, first of all, go back to school? They go back to school. They make sure they stay in school. Because there's a issue is not going on at school, but they should also stay in school. The third one is they should go to school, stay in school, and also complete school. Because to me, those are the areas that we are concerned as a ministry. Because now the campaign is go back to school. After going back, shall we be able to survive, to sustain this?
And they actually stay and
stay in school and complete. That's where John now normally comes in to give me support.
Over to you, John. What are your thoughts when you hear our theme today, leaving no child behind? What does it look like to you?
It means specific and directed focus to children as individuals. It means that we do not have talk generally. Because when you talk about these children that are not in school, the question is, where are they? Are they with their parents right now?
Did they get married, for example?
Are they married somewhere? And what was the role of the parents? What do the parents think? Do they have any support anywhere? Is there any willingness to support these children? So it actually means that we actually need to be very specific. The ministry has got to find a way of collecting data about those 6,000 children. Who are they? From which families do they come? Where are they? And what happened? Maybe we also need some kind of study. What is it that is causing all this? so that it informs our policy, so that we also start looking for where we can direct our resources. Leaving no child behind means to me that we are creating opportunities for the future for these children. Because when a girl child, the research actually shows that when a girl child stays in a school for 1 year, chances of the girl to be safe from HIV by 15%. So it delays over 60%. It increases the ability of the girl to make life skills, to the decision by over 100%. So leaving no child behind means that we actually focus on the most vulnerable child. The most vulnerable. We reach out to the farthest. Mr. Mutekanga's son, Sandra's daughter or Terra's son. No. The focus should be on the most vulnerable children. The pregnant teenagers, children that have actually had a lot of trouble as a result of COVID. This should be our focus. And we need to direct resources to those. We need to direct time to those people.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Terraho, for first of it all joining us and giving us your advice on how we can deal with getting our children back to school, catering to those that are very vulnerable. If you have any, just in a second, very last remarks as we conclude, for those that are watching us, our key takeaway.
My last comment is, first of all, thank you for hosting us and giving me this opportunity. I'm so thank my brother here, John. We last met last year. I've not seen him this year. And I know he's a very good young man. I call him young. I call him young because I normally tease him. He looks young every day. But for supporting us as a ministry, especially in this cause, because this is a very genuine cause. And as I have told you, I've shared the experience of Kalanga and other areas. But I think it's time now to act.
It's time to act.
It's time to act. Let us not keep our hands closed. Let us open up. Let us talk about it. Let us give each other support. Let us have a way forward.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you as well who's been part of our conversation on our social media. We were just looking forward to those comments like they mentioned. It's time to act, really. Let us work together to ensure that no child is left behind. I've been your host, Sandra Twino Video.